Today we're taking a look at the Transformers Hearts of Steel 2-pack, Timeline's Optimus Prime and Timeline's Starscream. Based on their designs from the IDW comic, the Transformers Evolutions, the Transformers in the late 19th century rather than the 20th century that we know and love. This box is absolutely gorgeous, with a great topical steampunk styling and embossed artwork. Nice raised art all over this outside slipcover. If I wasn't reviewing this, I'd be tempted not to open it, but the robots within have got to be seen. Speaking of within, once we remove the slipcover, there's more than meets the eye. More steampunk styling on the inside, plus an opening display box. Looking great with big red Transformers across the box and windows to keep the dust out. Really tempted to get a second copy of these for display. But again, we need to review these, so let's get them out. Have you read the comic or have you heard of this version of the characters before? Let me know in the comments below. Quickly out of the box, Starscream. Straighten out his feet and position his back panel over his head. Though I prefer it on the back, we'll do it for the sake of the review. They come with their obligatory instruction sheet, Starscream's null rays, or machine guns in this case, a shield piece, and Prime's blaster, but more on that later. Screamer's null rays, or machine guns, simply attach to his forearms via 5mm pegs, whilst Prime's shield can peg into either arm, and he can hold his blaster in either hand also, or you can Megatron it if you like. Whilst we watch these rotate around like a rotisserie chicken, let's talk about the designs. I'm personally indifferent about the whole steampunk thing. The aesthetic is nice, and sometimes it's a bit much, but each to their own, I guess. But on first perusal, I prefer Prime's design over Starscream's, plus he's a fucking train, and trains are fucking cool. Taking a closer look at Starscream first. Whilst his design is still cool, I do find it a little busy due to the nature of his alt mode kibble. I do find the head sculpt a bit small, especially if you remove the side wings. It is quite tiny in there. A lot of grey plastic on show, but fortunately broken up by the red crutch and torso, which is all paint over blue plastic. Hopefully it doesn't chip too much. I'm not sure why this decision was made. Maybe a gang molding issue, something along those lines, but it could have just been molded in red. No. Anyway, nice touches of gold and a little red and the Decepticon tampos on the wings. Very nice. Speaking of articulation, the wings can spread in and out, the head can only rotate, but it's hard to manipulate due to the clearance. The shoulder pads can move separately from the shoulder, but that's more for transformation. Universal shoulders! God, that was so cringe. Universal shoulders, but very restricted with the backpack in the way. They stop in a vertical position and don't go backwards at all. And the outward is just under 90. Bicep swivel, 4 clicks of detented frictioned ratchet, taking the elbows to 90 degrees. No wrist and no waist. Single piece movable hip skirt, hinged side skirts, universal hips with a full range in all directions, provided the butt flaps out of the way, thigh swivels, 90 degree knee bend, 45 degree ankle tilt in both directions, and the toe can point down. And of course, spinnable propeller blades. Just a note, in robot mode the side skirts have a stopping point just below 90 degrees. Don't force them or they may stress. They're a softer plastic. The foot blades and the various prop blades are also a softer plastic, so be careful not to flex them too much. It may cause stress marks and breakage, but time will tell. Now, onto the Train Man. Prime looks great, fantastic little head sculpt with the riveted faceplate, the grilled brow, and the little smokestack ears. It's a great look. A less saturated red plastic on the upper body with painted metallic blue hands, and a combination of red and blue on the lower legs with black painted details. Again, a lovely gold paint picking out some of the details on the chest and elsewhere. There's also some nice molded gearing in the back of the shoulder pads. Prime's plastic, unfortunate, feels a little subpar to the recent reviewed Age of the Primes and Studio Series figures. It doesn't feel fragile as such, but it has a lighter feel and a harder feel to it. I don't want to say brittle, but it's hard to describe, but it's noticeable in hand. Mainly the red plastic though. Prime's articulation. Head is on a ball joint and can rotate, nod, and heaps of waggle. Very emotive. No universal shoulders here. He has the rotation at the shoulder pauldron, whilst the outer movement is within the shoulder pad itself, though it looks fairly natural due to the position and the shape. High bicep swivel, single jointed but recessed elbow giving over 90 degrees. Again, no wrist, but this time we do have waist rotation. Cowcatcher hip skirts are on ball joints and can rotate out of the way. Universal hips with a full split, but slightly restricted forward and back. Thigh swivels, a past 90 single jointed knee, limited ankle tilts, and a little forward and back on the foot, but more forward. Overall, not bad. A couple of unfortunate issues with Prime. His shoulder doesn't really lock in, it just kind of sits on this little notch thing, and it tends to move off said notch very easily. I've also had Prime's arm twist off the mushroom peg a few times. It happens when it clashes with the shoulder pad on an inner movement. so just be mindful of that. Size comparisons with Devastation Optimus Prime, Legacy G1 Optimus Prime, and Age of the Prime's Red Alert. Transformation. Starscream up first. Fold back and collapse his head/back panel and fin. Lift and fold up the entire chest arm assembly, tabbing it into the wing pack. Rotate the forearms 90 degrees. Rotate the whole arm down and tab it into the wings. Rotate the null raise 180. Swing up the side skirts, unfold this small side panel and tab it into the bottom of the engines. Fold the feet down, swing the leg assembly down at the waist, rotate the thighs 180 outwards, rotate the hips a further 90 degrees, spread his legs, tab in the butt flap into the pegs on the top of his thighs. This feels a little odd, but you can see when it's in the right location. Fold the front hip skirt under and tab it in, bend the knees 90 degrees, and tab the lower leg into the lower wings. Hinge the wings out, and job done. I definitely prefer Starscream's steampunk triple propeller biplane mode over his robot mode. Once you understand the order of operations in his transformation, it's fairly easy and satisfying. Taking a closer look, the bland grey doesn't look as bad here to me, with all the busyness more unified into the plane form. I like how the shoulder pads become armour plates and the null rays turning around into their machine gun placements. Kibble is fairly minimal, with the legs converting enough to blend in. He also has landing gear that rolls nicely, but there is a big blue elephant in the room. Starscream's hands are just hanging out there in plain sight, no pun intended. It takes away from the alt mode a fair bit. A basic hinge to fold them inwards would have worked wonders. Red plastic could have been used rather than the red paint covering all the blue. That budget could have been used to hide the hands. Anyway, Prime time. To transform Prime, first rotate his forearms 90 degrees, then fold and collapse them into the shoulder pads. Hinge back the shoulders at 45, hinge back the head panel, slightly shifting the entire assembly back and down on a double hinge. Fold this red panel under, fold the head panel back. Now flip the whole assembly up and slide the red panel into the front of the train. Rotate the shoulders 180, swing them back and tab them together. Swing the cow catcher together, tabbing them in centrally. Spread the legs slightly, swing out the red panels, and then hinge them up out of the way. Fold away the feet, collapse the knees into the lower leg, tabbing the legs into the body here. Tab the rear panels together at the back and below. Now grab Prime's blaster and shield. Tab the shield into the back, enclosing the back of the engine. Don't press too hard though. Now onto the blaster. Open it up, fold the barrel away, cleverly becoming the smokestack. Now peg it into the top, train mode done. He's a wee little train man. It can be difficult to get everything lined up perfectly so pieces aren't popping out when other pieces are tabbed in. Make sure that the shoulder pad arm sections tab into the waist section here. It will help a lot. Plus a little massaging will help. Prime is a bit the inverse of Starscream. I actually prefer his robot mode much more. I love trains as much as the next person, but the chibified look isn't for me. I feel it needs to be stretched out. Kinda feels like a little Disney train or something with the proportions and the colours. And I'm not a big fan of these red panels at the rear. To my point earlier, they feel bad and they're kinda flimsy. He can roll, and that's about it in train mode. Some size comparisons. Again, with Devastation Optimus Prime, Legacy G1 Universe Optimus Prime, Age of the Prime's Red Alert, and another train, albeit a masterpiece one, MPG-07, Trainbot, I can't pronounce this. Overall, this set isn't bad. On one hand, it's fantastic to get official Hearts of Steel figures, but on the other, they're a little bit flawed, as per the plastic on Prime for the most part. It's 2 deluxe figures for the price of a litre, at least in Australia. I do recommend them if this is your thing, but if it's not, I wouldn't pick them up on a whim, particularly with the markup. That was a look at the Transformers Hearts of Steel 2-pack, Timelines Optimus Prime, and Timelines Starscream. Thanks everyone for watching. Consider supporting the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.